Damn.
Buongiorno, amicis. You may have noticed I've been making a lot of videos about Italian guns lately. We've done Beretta, we've done Benelli, we've done a little Chiappa, and that's amore, bros. I'm having a regular Tuscan summer here in New Orleans. I've been eating gelato and ganache between sips of Ernest Gallo Chianti. True story. I shot someone yesterday when I saw him putting pineapple on a pizza. Guys, I'm finally growing chest hair, so mamma mia. Let's review another Italiano Classico today. So grab yourself a big fistful of prosciutto and settle in, my fellow Italianophiles, because I'm going to share a little story with you about how I saved a cheetah. The Beretta 81 series of pistols are perhaps the most misnomered pistols around. Introduced in 1976, the 81 series is, generally speaking, like a baby Beretta 92 in straight blowback. The Model 81 and 82 are 32 ACP, the 87 and 89 are 22 LR, and there are more versions made in something that resembles a real caliber, including the 83 through 86, which are 380 ACP. Technically, only models made on or after 1995 were called Cheetahs and marked that way. Moreover, Beretta superfans believe that even Beretta's use of the term 80s series is incorrect to describe these guns because the Model 80 was a target pistol in 22 short that shared no design features whatsoever with the 81 and beyond. So the argument is that you should call them the 81 series because the series of pistols known as Cheetahs started with Model 81. Today's video is a review of the Beretta 84 specifically. Why? Well, you watched my Handguns of Heat video a couple of weeks ago, and for one brief moment in that movie, you can see Val Kilmer as Chris Shiherlis passed out on Neil McCauley's floor. McCauley, of course, famously played by Robert De Niro. Didn't know if you know this, huge Italy guy. I noticed two things in this brief scene. One, Kilmer had a nasty looking bursitis on his elbow. I've gotten one of those before, and my God, are they disgusting. He apparently fell during a stunt while he was filming The Doors, also while he was filming Heat. But what I noticed right after that is that Val's gun of choice in this movie was a Beretta 81 series. You never see that gun other than in this scene, and it's in the holster. It's almost impossible to tell which model it is, but my guess is that it's a Beretta 84, which is a double stack 380. You can see how the butt's a little bit on the thick side, plus, as a gun guy in the film, I can't imagine that Shiherlis would be carrying one of those single stack 380s that's virtually the same size as the 84 instead of the double stack 13 plus 1 380 Beretta 84. This piqued my interest because I thought to myself, this actually was a really good option for concealed carry in 1995 when the film was set. Around this time, your compact double stack options were pretty limited. Yes, the Glock 26 came out in 1994, the Glock 19 had been out since the 80s, but they can be a little bit on the large, thick side for concealed carry. True slim double stack compacts were decades away, but there it was right in front of us the whole time, the Beretta 84. Gun guy confession, and I know at least half of you are guilty of this too, so don't any of you dare to try to butt blast me for confessing that I bought a gun mostly because of a movie. I say mostly because I don't like to own guns that don't have like a practical application. I did my research before I purchased. I wanted to know if the Cheetah had any practical use whatsoever today, and that's what I'm going to talk to you about in this video. I hopped on Gunbroker and I found a few surplus Beretta 84s for $400 to $450. I picked out what I thought was the cleanest one, and I think I paid on the low end of the scale, around $400 for this one, a Beretta 84 BB model. I was goddamn elated when I got it. The thing looks like new. It's absolutely gorgeous. Balance was excellent. And on top of that, I bought a couple of Metgar magazines, the OEM manufacturer, for a lot of companies, not just Beretta, for $21 each. The grips on this one were probably the part that was in the worst shape, but fortunately, it seems that any Beretta 84 style grips will work. So I located some new old stock Berettas on eBay for less than 20 bucks. I cleaned the gun up, I bought a recoil spring from Wolf for 8 bucks. After everything, in the hole for about $500 for a lovely Italian 380 and a slew of accessories. I even went and bought a leather IWB holster for it, and I'm going to screw around with carrying it just for fun. The Beretta 84 would have been a great option for concealed carry in the 90s, and I would argue that it's still a good option today. It's slightly smaller and lighter than the Glock 19, only about an ounce. I can actually cover the Beretta 84 with my hand. The trade-off is that you lose 2 rounds of capacity versus the Glock 19, and you're also shooting 380 instead of 9mm. So I guess at that point, why not just carry a pocket 380 like the Kel-Tec P380 or the very impressive new Ruger LCP Max, which is a pocket-sized gun that holds 10 rounds of 380. Here's a comparison of the minuscule LCP Max next to the Cheetah. A fair question, but the Beretta 84 has an unusual set of features that make the trade-offs almost worth it depending on what your concealed carry philosophy is. Again, you have decent capacity in a compact frame. While the grips are a little bit chubby at about 1.3 inches thick, the frame itself is only 0.6 inches thick, and the slide is only about 1 inch thick. So that's actually really thin and pretty easy to tuck in the waistband. The butt is the biggest part by a huge margin, and that's not even really all that bad. So yeah, it's light enough and thin enough to conceal inside a waistband, even more so than the Glock 19, but it still has a 3.8 inch barrel, which is roughly the same as a Walther PPK, but with double the capacity of the PPK. Most pocket 380s, including the LCP Max, have about a 2.5 inch barrel, and as you can see from Ballistics by the Inch, you get about a 10% power increase with that extra inch of barrel from the 84. That's not to mention that the 84 has a great double action, single action trigger. Really, the big catch with pocket 380s is that virtually all of them use these dog shit, double action only triggers that feel like a staple gun and require forearms like Popeye if you need to dump a whole magazine. Not to mention that your trigger usually resets in the next time zone. So they're a little bit slower and a little bit less accurate because of that. Glocks and other striker fired handguns, on the other hand, have better triggers, but they make some people uncomfortable to carry when loaded and charged. A Glock trigger pull is going to be about 5 pounds every single time, and there's no safety. I'm fine with that, but understandably, some of you are not. Now with the Beretta 84, you have options. You can leave the hammer down, and your first trigger pull is going to be pretty long and heavy, which in and of itself acts like a safety. After you crack that first shot, the slide will automatically cock the hammer, and all of your follow-up shots will have a nice, short, light, single-action pull that's actually really good. The single-action pull on this one, which has had some rounds through it, is about 4.5 to 5 pounds. The double-action pull is about 9 to 10 pounds. Not bad. But wait, there's more. The Beretta also has a thumb safety, and the best part is you have the option to carry this gun cocked and locked. That's with the hammer cocked, so you get that nice, light, single-action trigger pull. But you can leave your thumb safety on. So when you draw, you just depress the safety like a 1911. It's ambidextrous, it's in a great spot, it's easy to sweep whenever you draw. And if this was something that I was going to carry, that's probably how I would carry it. Finally, many of you who like to carry appendix also like having a hammer-fired gun, so you can rest your thumb on the back of the hammer when you're reholstering. With your thumb on the back of the hammer, you can't pull the trigger, which means you won't shoot your ding-ding off. But what about the fact that this gun's a 380? I need to make a soundbite of Clint Smith saying,
well, you know, what do you think about a 380? I wouldn't have one up my ass if I had room for a tugboat.
I won't argue with you. 380 is absolutely less powerful than 9mm, and I won't debate with anyone who says, look, man, I'll never carry a 380. I think that's perfectly sound, perfectly reasonable. Even if myself, I will occasionally carry a 380 under limited circumstances. The fact of the matter is there are current day 380 loadings that meet the FBI standard for penetration and show good expansion. We're talking 380 rounds that will deliver 12 to 18 inches of penetration through cloth from a 2.5 inch barrel, expanding to 0.6 inches in size. In other words, while inferior to 9mm, modern day 380 is nothing to scoff at. The kicker is that 380 is probably half as light recoiling as 9mm. Really enjoying it for being a straight blowback gun. You would think that it would have more recoil, but I mean, this thing really is a pussycat. Wow. And as it's generally accepted that shot placement's more important than caliber, a human being's just going to be more accurate with a lighter recoiling gun. The Beretta 84 is ever the light recoiling gun. It weighs 23 ounces, about an ounce less than the Glock 19, but with half the recoil. My good buddy Sam here, he's got a gun full of hollow points. So we've been running hollow points and ball rounds through this thing. The 84's got a similar slide profile to the Beretta 92. That is to say, it has an open top design, making the slide very lightweight. There are two main benefits. First, the open slide means that the ejection port is, like the 92, 180 degrees wide open, so there's plenty of space to eject expended shell casings. That means the 84 is famously reliable. Second, with a lighter slide, there's a little bit less reciprocating mass and less felt recoil. We'll talk more about that in a moment. This is also important to the function of the Beretta 84 because the gun's a straight blowback. That means the barrel doesn't move, it doesn't tilt, there's no true locking device. Because the slide is so light, the hammer spring and the recoil spring supply almost 25 pounds of pressure to keep the barrel locked in place until it's safe for the gun to recoil. This design makes the gun very simple and dependable. On the downside, that means that the Cheetah takes about 40% more force than the Beretta 92 to rack. If you've ever handled a Beretta 92, then you know that racking the slide is slicker than extra virgin olive oiled up tits on glass because it uses a falling block as a mechanical delay device. And it doesn't need to rely on spring tension to delay the action. But back on the upside, that means the Cheetah has virtually a fixed barrel. This should theoretically make it an excellent suppressor host because your silencer won't have to be equipped with a Nielsen device. A Nielsen device, also known as a booster, increases a handgun's reliability with the silencer at the expense of additional recoil, extra weight, extra length, and more money. Because the Cheetah's barrel doesn't move, it doesn't need a booster to assist it with recoil. Speaking of recoil, I've read some articles written by some of the more tender-handed reviewers out there who've described the Cheetah's recoil as snappy. This is, of course, purely subjective, but to me, a Walther PPK is snappy. A Makarov is snappy. My wife is snappy. The Cheetah is not. Firing with regular range ball ammo or hollow points, I thought the Cheetah was a real pussycat. I would go so far to say that it's one of the most pleasant handguns, centerfire handguns, in my collection to shoot. As I demonstrate on the range, it's actually pretty easy for follow-ups to do like a Mozambique drill or a failure drill at 7 yards, putting 2 in the torso and one cute little 380 button right in the face. Damn, there's no real slide to speak of moving, and you got a big chunky grip on here, so you can keep like a nice firm grip. Probably went a little bit faster, fast and loose than I should have right there, but it was fun. I was having a good time. And he's dead, clearly. Between the light caliber and the light slide, there just isn't a whole lot coming back at you, so you're getting a pretty smooth ride with the 84. Accuracy was reasonably good considering that the sights are mediocre on the version that I have, which is the 84BB. All right, so I'm shooting a little high. That was my first magazine ever with this thing, but holy smokes. I mean, we're what, 10, 15, 20, 7 yards away. And I mean, that's like a nice tight grouping. There is no recoil in this gun. Let's try it with hollow points. All right, so a little bit more pow with the hollow points, but still, again, at 7 yards, still a little high, but I mean, this one is half of them in the 10 ring, and then all the rest, gosh, more than half of them. That's 10 of them in the 10 ring, and then 1, 2, 3 squarely in the 9. I don't really have a problem with that, and that's only the second magazine through this gun. Really enjoying it. The ergonomics are outstanding unless you're built like a cave troll, in which case you might find the 81 series a little small. The slide release is not exactly easy to get to, so when I was reloading, I was relying on either manually racking my extra serrated 84 BB slide or slamming the magazine home hard enough where the gun would charge itself. So when I ram the piss out of this magazine up the butt of this Cheetah, it will inertia charge. See that? As you see here, sometimes it would take me a fraction of a second to notice that the gun actually inertia charged. The trigger has a little bit of creep. Like most hammer-fired double-action, single-action defensive pistols, I still think the trigger's great with a double-action pull, as I mentioned, of 9 to 10 pounds and a single-action pull of 4 to 5 pounds. You'll read mixed reviews about the trigger, but no one says it's bad. It's generally regarded, I would say, as pretty good. So if you think you want to buy a Cheetah, there are a lot of different versions, some of which have as many as 5 generations. It can be intimidating, and you really need to do your homework before you purchase one, because there are a lot of different variations here. I can just head it off at the pass right now and tell you, just go straight to the Beretta forums, go to the Beretta 81 series reference library there. Bravo to those guys at the Beretta forums for running a truly comprehensive and well-kept archive about this interesting series of firearm, including this handy chart of all the models and generations and the differences. They've done such a good job with this archive that you can't help but just get a little Cheetah chub when you're poking around and reading the different posts and the little historical tidbits that they've collected and shared about this gun. As mentioned, the 81 series came in 22, 32, and 380. For personal defense, the 380 is what you should be looking at. The only double stack is the 84, and it's marginally thicker at the grip than the other single stack 380s while giving you 5 or 6 more rounds. We're talking 0.2 of an inch. So I would suggest to you that the 84 is the only version worth getting if you're actually thinking about carrying this gun. To abbreviate the Cheetah timeline, you had the original guns from the 70s which had no suffix, the Model 84. The B models, like 84B, were introduced in 1980, and the main improvement there were some mechanical safeties that kept the gun from popping off when your kids drop it after you leave them at home alone again to go to the local trattoria. The BB version, which is what I have, slightly improved the sights and added more slide serrations. I like the BB version the best because it has this rounded trigger guard, this melted slide at the rear, and the most slide serrations of all the different versions. The F and the FS versions came out in the 90s. Many shooters would probably prefer these models. They added a squared trigger guard, a little bit blockier slide, improved sights, but perhaps more importantly, they're available in a Brunaton or nickel finish, which is going to be a superior finish to the blued versions from the 70s and 80s. The F-Series also added a decocker to the safety lever if you pushed it all the way up, which is a great feature, even though it's a little bit less fun and less exciting than decocking the gun by using the trigger. To summarize, the Cheetah is like a kick in the head. I don't really remember too many lyrics of that song. Was it a kick in the head? Was that like a good thing or a bad thing? I thought the song was like a kick in the head. It was like a pleasant surprise, but I mean, man, I've been punched in the head before a bunch, and that shit sucks. I'm just trying to say it was a pleasant surprise. That's what I'm trying to say. And I'm trying to stick with the Italian theme here, but just bear with me. We're almost done with the damn video. Literally, until I made a video about heat and I did some research on the Cheetah, I was of the perception that these were pizza pasta pussy pistols. And to be totally honest, they kind of are, except for the 84. There's really nothing quite like the 84 on the market. It's compact, it's concealable, it's accurate, it's reliable. It's got 4 inches of barrel that'll squeeze out plenty of power from the perhaps underrated 380 cartridge, and with little recoil to boot. It's fun to shoot, and with 14 rounds of some hot 90 grain, it might save your salami too. The 84 is a hell of a gun. It has lines like peak Sophia Loren, but it's going to be a niche pistol, at least from a practical standpoint. That's good news and bad news. The good news is, if you like what I've told you about the Beretta 84, the 84 has the market cornered on compact, high-capacity, 4-inch barreled 380s. There's nothing else like it. The bad news is, it's easy to corner the market when the market is centered around a somewhat inefficiently sized handgun and a caliber that's more marinara than Arrabbiata. Bottom line, the Cheetah hits my eye like a big pizza pie. As long as you know what you're using it for, and as long as you know what you're getting into, I'd try to catch a cheetah too. Thanks a ton to you guys as usual for watching. Thank you to our sponsors, Ventura Munitions, who sent all the 380, the treasure trove of 380 that I use, because that stuff's like $1 around right now. Thank you to Top Gun Supply, your online shooting sports superstore. I don't think they have any Beretta 84s, but maybe you should go check it out. They definitely carry the brand. But yet again, thank you guys so much, especially our subscribers, for watching. We couldn't do this without you. So I guess this is ciao.